C. We're going to go back to that. Part C is where you combine A and B, but it's private insurance. So you're no longer under the original Medicare. If you go, and a better name that people know it by is Medicare Advantage. But that's Part C. You no longer have original Medicare. You either move to like a PPO or an HMO plan. And then it offers at least the same benefits as A and B, but different costs and coverage restrictions. So when people say, well, compare to me the original A and B of Medicare to Part C, I mean, this would take, just for one county, would take a spreadsheet that would make your eyes go googly. Because every single plan that's out there that's considered private, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, if you went out to Medicare.gov and looked, you would see, again, probably somewhere around 14 plans available that are just what's considered Medicare Advantage. And each plan has a different feature to it. So it's almost impossible to do a side-by-side comparison of the original Medicare to the Medicare Advantage. Typically, though, what you'll see is that the Medicare Advantage plans will also have Part D included. So you've literally taken A, B, and D and put it into a nice little package. The piece that I want people to be careful of is that you're still going to have that deductible just like you had in Part A. You're still going to have that deductible just like you did in Part B. And you're usually still going to have those co-insurances just like you did in A and B. It's just that it's coming from a private insurer. Now they may have some added advantages that traditional A and B don't have, but overall, this is just taking Part A and B from our government system and moving it over to private insurances. The other big thing that I always forewarn people about with Medicare Advantage, because the sell on Medicare Advantage is it doesn't cost you any more than what your Medicare premium would be, right? So if you're paying $112, there's zero premium. We're just going to continue to take Medicare just like we have traditionally, right out of your Social Security check, or if you pay it, you just send it to us instead. But it's regional. So within this little network, Steuben-Chemung County, usually Livingston in this area, that's where your coverage is. If you're traveling, you better call your insurance company. If you're under Part C, under Medicare Advantage, if you're traveling, you better call them and find out what they have in the place that you're going. This is why I don't recommend it for a lot of the snowbirds, because if they're going to be in Florida for part of the year and they're going to be up here for part of the year, original Medicare is accepted in both locations. But Part C isn't always. It's very regional, very specific to the area that you're in. Coverage for outside, if you want to call it outside the network, many times is excluded or very, very, very limited. So I had somebody who was thinking about having surgery, and we were looking through their plan, and I said, if this isn't needed this year, like it's not a life and death situation, what I think you should do is actually wait until January, switch back to original Medicare, and get yourself a supplement. Because if you don't, you're probably going to spend around $10,000 out of pocket for the surgery. Because part of it is they wanted to go to Cleveland Clinic, which wasn't covered under the regional plan. So just be aware of what the limitations are. They'll tout it as it's so much cheaper to go this route. The premium is cheaper. Let me just rephrase their definition of cheaper. And it's cheaper for them because you're less likely to pay more out of pocket. So I always caution people. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that be careful of the coverage. If you know that you're never going to leave this little area and all your doctors are right here and you're fine with that, then Part C might be what you want. Just be aware of your deductibles, your co-insurances, and your region. The other thing that I always like to forewarn people about is it's very challenging to change the plan once you're in it, within the year. So it's an election that you make for a year. You have to live with that election for a year. If you have very few circumstances, then you can move out of that particular plan. But for the most part, if you move to Part C, if you go to Medicare Advantage, you are stuck with that plan for 1 year. You can make no changes whatsoever unless you fit within those categories. Like you move out of the service area, you become eligible for Medicaid, or you move to a custodial care facility, meaning a nursing home type environment. There is this special little clause that's a 5-star special enrollment that they have going right now, which simply means you can change from one plan that is a Medicare Advantage plan, maybe rated at a 3 or a 4, up to a 5-star plan. So you're still changing within Medicare Advantage, you're just changing within the ratings of the plan. So they're very, very limited changes once you elect Part C. You have to wait until open enrollment of the next year if you want to get out of that. So then, to confuse everybody even more, so there's also private insurance that are called supplemental plans. Now these plans work with A and B, the traditional Medicare, A and B, right? They are supplemental plans. They do not work with any other plans that are out there, meaning Medicare Advantage. They only work with traditional A and B of Medicare. Why they chose letters, again, I have no clue. But to confuse people, the supplemental plans that are available are A through G and K through N. I don't know why they skipped that. But when I talk to people about Medicare Part A and B, and then we start talking about supplemental plans, the letters are, we're looking at the same sort of lettering system, and they're like, wait, I thought A covered this. Nope, that's Medicare A and B, not supplementals. So when we're looking, and this information is in your packet, I gave this to you too, but when we're looking at the coverage for the supplementals, and this goes back to the individual that I was talking about that I said, if this isn't medically necessary, then I think it would be really nice if you could wait till next year, because next year you can flip back to the traditional Medicare A and B, and then pick a supplemental plan. So supplemental plans will help cover that large deductible that I mentioned to you, almost $1,300 in Part A. It will pick that cost up. It will also, in some cases, pick up anywhere from 100% to 50 or 75% of the $166 for Part B. It will pick up hospice care, anything above and beyond, and in some cases in the K and the L plans, 50 to 75% there. My point is that this actually has coverage on top, so you can get a plan that gives supplemental insurance above and beyond what your Part A and Part B is. Are there premiums associated with this? Absolutely. But when somebody tells me that they want to go to the Cleveland Clinic and they want to have this surgery done, and the surgery is somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000, we can go out and look at the various plans that are available and say, well, okay, we want a plan that probably covers some sort of hospitalization, that Part A deductible then. We want a plan that, Part B isn't that much, 166, but sure, we'll maybe, weigh that factor into it. Excess charges, what that means is if there's anything that Part B doesn't cover, so let's say that your there's not a Medicare approved treatment that you're getting, supplemental insurance, these two plans anyways, will actually pick that up regardless of the fact that Medicare won't. So that excess coverage is actually there for you. One thing that Medicare nor the Advantage plan, neither of them actually have, is foreign travel. So some of these plans actually offer some coverage in foreign travel. And then some of them actually say the most you'll ever pay out of pocket is a certain dollar amount. So for those of you that I've talked to before, you'll see the little asterisk there next to the F. I call that the Cadillac plan. That particular plan covers the most. It's going to cost around $180 per month per premium. So if you just did simple math and rounded it up to $200, you'd be $2,400 a year in premiums for that coverage, right? So if you knew you were going to have a $10,000 surgery and you weren't going to have to pick anything up beyond the premium, you're budgeting the coverage. You're budgeting what you're going to have your surgery, and you're saving yourself a fairly significant, almost $7,000 in that particular situation, because you'll pay that $2,400 in premium, but you won't pay a cent over that. Your insurance will pick up everything after that. One of the nice things about Medicare Advantage plans as well, about supplemental plans as well, is that you do have the ability to change plans. So if you get into one of those A through G and K through N plans, if you get into one of those and you want to change the plan, you can actually do that. You have the ability. Now, the insurance company can charge you a little bit more if you change throughout a non-open enrollment period, but it might be worth it. My point is, you have the option. You can actually go in and say, you know what, I'm on the L plan, and I know I'm going to have this really big surgery, so I want to switch to the F plan. Your F plan coverage will take place the next month. You just have to talk with them and see what they're going to increase the premium to, if they're going to increase it. So that's one of the things that I really, really, really like about the Medigap supplemental plans, is that you have the ability to actually change that. And again, just flipping back to this real quickly, you'll notice the different coverages that are there for the different plans. One that is very common for many people is this L plan. They feel that they can come up with out of pocket some of, the 25% of what Medicare doesn't cover. So they'll pick up the L plan with a maximum dollar figure that they pay out of pocket of $2,500 a year, again, rounding up. But understand there's no foreign travel connected with that plan. But it's a very, very popular plan. I think when Corning Incorporated went to the retiree medical plan, that was the plan that they said was most like the plan that they previously had.
Was the K or the L?
The L.
Yeah.
Yep. So this actually talks about the supplemental insurance a little bit. It's in your packet. You can change Medicare supplement insurance plan any time of the year, anytime you want. But if you do change plans or providers, you should try to switch within the initial 6-month open enrollment period, because then there's no chance that they'll actually charge you more. Doesn't prohibit you, but again, they can come back and say, sure, normally you would pay $180, but because you're switching, in month 7, it might cost you $190. So just be aware of that. I know United Healthcare, that's the AARP supported one. They haven't ever increased the cost when somebody changes throughout the course of the year, but they have the right to if they wanted to, but they haven't so far for anybody that I've worked with. Medigap insurance plans are guaranteed renewable, so you'll be able to keep the insurance policy every year unless United Healthcare or whoever you're under says we're no longer going to offer these plans. So they can't cancel you because you were costly last year, is where I'm going with that. They can't say you had a really significant cost to our company this year, and so we're going to cancel you.
Are there qualifications, like right now I have one of the Advantage plans out in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to original A and B and picked up a supplemental,
Mm-hmm.
do you have to meet a physical, or can they disqualify you because of pre-existing
No, they're
conditions?
actually not allowed to do that. So if they're offering the supplemental plans and you're doing it during open enrollment, that's the key. They're not allowed to disqualify for you for pre-existing conditions. So there's no exam, there's no qualification or anything like that. That is one of the requirements of being an approved Medigap provider. Now, they may have a different premium, the $180 that I was quoting for the F plan. Every state does run things just a little bit different. So I don't want people to think, oh, that, because I know in Florida, it's like double because they age base it. So when I'm talking to people that are in Florida, I actually quote about $260 is what the F plan is. And it does go up every 5 years. So they actually have, you are absolutely allowed to get it, like they can't stop you from getting it, but it is age-based qualifier. So every state has its own little, this is the one time that I actually think New York has this right. They just said, here's our premium, you cannot base it on age, this is how we're gonna run it in the state of New York. So I'm generally not a fan of the insurance department of the state of New York, but as far as Medigap goes, I've been very impressed with how low they've been able to keep the premium, considering the coverage that comes along with it. So this is where we started, the Medicare confusion. We talked about just having the combination of A and B, and the risks associated with just having those combinations. We talked about having A, B, and D, which is a requirement. Then, if you wanted to, you could have A, B, D, and a supplemental. You are not required to have a supplemental, but it is, in my opinion, much less costly out of pocket if you can go that route. You can have just A and B, but understand you're going to be paying 100% of the prescription costs, and there's that penalty associated with it. You can also have C and D, so two separate plans that will have your Medicare Advantage plan and a separate Part D plan, or you can combine it all into one plan. So there's lots of different choices that you have available under Medicare. It is not something that I encourage people to try to do it alone, and it's not something that I say set and forget. Medicare is something that should be looked at every single year because your health changes every single year, your prescriptions may change every single year, and if they don't, your formularies may change every single year. So it's really important if you have any changes, certainly that's important to talk about. And also, just make sure that the meds that you're on right now stay within the formularies of the plans that you're currently using, because the insurance companies don't have to get approval for changing those formularies. They can just make the change. So it's kind of important to keep up on that. Medicare.gov is a good website to actually go out and explore. They do have a tool that you can actually sign up and change your plan. You can actually go out and play with the cost a little bit. You can see what the drug coverage is. I will forewarn you that right now the website is fine. There's no issues. But as you get closer and closer to open enrollment actually being required, so that December 7th deadline that's out there, this website chugs along slower than your grandma does. It's being bombarded at that point in time. So it really, really is very slow. And you want to get out there and get this stuff taken care of right now. As I've said to people, try to do it as soon after Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving as possible, because things get really, really, really bogged down in the system. So I really encourage people to get this decision made fairly early, so that you're not frustrated with how slow the system is going. You can put your medications right in here when you go in and to see what coverage is available in your area. You can put your medications so that you can actually see what plans they recommend for you. They'll sort by the cost for you, both out of pocket as well as co-pays and co-insurances. So again, I don't expect people to do this on their own, but if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to play around with it a little bit, then this is the website that I would have you go out and kind of test around.
Are there coverages here for dental or eye?
Some of the private insurances will have that added in, so those Part C plans that are out there will actually, some of them will actually have that in there as an add-on. You know, you pay a premium for it. But a traditional Medicare A and B doesn't, for the most part. There are limited circumstances under which coverage for dental and eye would be covered. So vision, as an example, if you have cataracts or glaucoma or any kind of kidney issues, then you will get some coverage for the exam, but you're not going to get any coverage for glasses or anything like that, or contacts. Yeah, yeah. One thing that I always tell people too is, you know, if you don't have coverage for those kinds of things, ask the doctor or the dentist what they offer for self-pay. Because most of the time when you self-pay, it's less. They'll actually charge you less. They'll say, oh, well, let me just submit it to your insurance and see if, nope, I'm self-pay, I know I'm self-pay, what do I pay? And I had this situation this summer where I told them I was self-pay for my vision, and they said, well, we'll just try to submit it. I said, I know with 100% certainty that my insurance will not pick this up. I'm self-pay. So it went from $109 to $70.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because they're hoping, you know, that's what they would get from the insurance company, so that's what they'll charge me for self-pay. So ask if the doctor doesn't, you know, if you don't have that kind of coverage, ask. And I know a lot of dentist office, they'll give you like 10% off for being senior citizen too. So, I mean, that's always very helpful. They know that if you're over age 65, they don't usually have dental coverage, so they'll usually give you some kind of discount for the coverage.